Welcome to NACTV Reads the News. My name is Jeremy Vogt, and I'm one of many volunteers that help create programming for our station. NACTV can be seen on MTS Channel 30 or 1030, Westman Cable Channel 117, Bell Satellite Channel 592, or online at nactv.tv. These programs are made possible by our volunteers, staff, advertisers, as well as donations made by you, the viewers. If you are enjoying your NACTV experience, please consider supporting us by either donation or volunteering. You can contact our office at 204-476-2639 or email us at nactv@wcgwave.ca. And today I'll be reading the Neepawa Banner and Press for Friday, August 6, 2021. And on the front page, a building boom in Neepawa. As of late, there has been an influx of high-profile construction projects making progress throughout Neepawa. One, for example, is the build of several residential houses on the land most commonly known to locals as the former CN property. As well, the Neepawa Gladstone Co-op recently poured the foundation for its new home center expansion, which is being built near the water tower. Further east, the Kinsman Quartz 2 is inching closer and closer to completion, as the building's facade is taking shape and interior work is progressing quite well. The Neepawa Area Planning District has seen firsthand just how energized the building sector has become. In total, 50 building permits worth approximately $30.8 million have been awarded over the first 7 months of 2021. The value of these permits has eclipsed last year's numbers, 77 permits worth $12.9 million, and are on pace to surpass 2018, 71 permits, $32.9 million. If those building start averages hold steady for the remainder of the year, 2021 would be the busiest building season in terms of total value in the last 5 years. The story is continued on page 8. And the caption on the picture reads, "The construction of the Neepawa Gladstone Co-op Home Center building is just one of several significant projects currently on the go in the town of Neepawa." One of the larger projects currently under construction is the Neepawa Gladstone Co-op's Home Center expansion. The main building, once completed, will be 26,000 square feet with an additional 4,000 square feet for the garden center. Co-op General Manager Brian Headley said that they are very excited about making progress on this very significant expansion to their local footprint. "Quite a multi-stage build that we are doing there," stated Headley. "There's just so much on the go right now throughout Neepawa. It's an exciting time to see the progress that's going on, not just for Neepawa Gladstone Co-op, but for all the projects that are on the go across the community." Slightly further east of the co-op development, another important project for Neepawa is taking shape, as several houses are now up and on lots at the former CN property. Madison Place Properties, a conglomerate of investors based primarily out of Neepawa, had purchased 32 of the 45 available lots and has been quick in getting some progress done on them. Michelle Gerard, who is a part of the consortium, stated that while construction is slightly behind schedule, they are still excited to see their development plans take shape. "We are approximately 3 weeks behind schedule from what we had planned in January. However, considering the supply challenges this year, we are happy with that progress. So far, it has gone relatively smooth. Local trades we are using are doing a fantastic job in coordinating their schedules. We anticipate being 95% complete with the development by fall 2021. Councillor Murray Parrott serves as the chairperson for the Town of Neepawa's Infrastructure Committee. He noted to the Banner and Press that all of this work which is underway is a positive sign for the future prosperity of the community. And there's a picture to the right, captioned, "Several new homes for the residential lots, known to many as the former CN property, are going up at an exceptional pace." New changes to COVID-19 health orders. Revised rules go into effect at 12:01 a.m. on Saturday, August 7th. The Manitoba government has decided to move ahead with new public health orders and guidance for COVID-19 a full month earlier than originally expected. Premier Brian Pallister and Dr. Brent Roussin, Manitoba's Chief Provincial Public Health Officer, made the announcement on Tuesday, August 3rd. Thanks to the remarkable efforts of Manitobans, we are now in a position to reopen more sooner, as we have achieved our highest vaccination rates yet, said Pallister. This means Manitobans will enjoy the least restrictive public health orders since the start of the pandemic last year. The new public health orders will allow the following sectors to open without restrictions: indoor and outdoor gatherings at private residences, gyms and fitness centers, libraries, personal services such as hair and nail salons, retail businesses, markets, garden centers, and malls. Other sectors will open with limited restrictions, including expanded capacity limits will remain in place for weddings, funerals, and other public gatherings, both indoors and outdoors, including larger capacity limits for worship and cultural events like powwows. Restaurants and bars will no longer need to restrict the size or space between tables, and dining will not be restricted to households or vaccinated individuals. Patrons, however, will still be expected to avoid congregating or socializing between tables. Museums, galleries, and movie theaters will remain limited to 50% capacity, but will no longer be restricted to vaccinated individuals. Casinos and bingo halls, professional sporting events, horse and auto racing, and concert halls will continue to be limited to vaccinated individuals. However, all these facilities may now open to 100% capacity. Indoor and outdoor sports and recreation will fully reopen with limits only on spectator capacity. Overnight camps will be permitted with limits on camper cohorts. Workplaces must continue to report cases to government for follow-up, and public health confirmed transmission of COVID-19 in the workplace may result in workplaces being ordered to close for a minimum of 10 days. And remote working will no longer be required or recommended by public health, and workplaces will be encouraged to transition from COVID-19 safety plans to a general communicable disease prevention plan. Due to the ongoing presence of COVID-19 and the extra risk posed by the Delta variant, provincial public health officials strongly recommend wearing masks in indoor public spaces for everyone who is not fully immunized, and maintaining physical distancing of 2 meters in indoor settings. The new public health orders will go into effect at 12:01 a.m. Saturday, August 7th. The orders will expire at 12:01 a.m. on Tuesday, September 7th, and will be reassessed at that time in the context of vaccination rates and the province's overall COVID-19 situation. The caption on the photos states, on Tuesday, August 3rd, Dr. Brent Roussin, Chief Provincial Public Health Officer, and Premier Brian Pallister announced new health orders for the province effective 12:01 a.m. on August 7th. Manitoba Liberal leader concerned with COVID-19 guideline changes. Reaction was swift from one of Manitoba's opposition parties to the upcoming changes to public health orders related to COVID-19. The provincial government announced on Tuesday, August 3rd that the changes would take effect on Saturday, August 6th. That should be August 7th. The most notable alterations to the rules will be no restrictions on indoor and outdoor gatherings at private residences and masks no longer being required at indoor public places. Dougald Lamont, the Manitoba Liberal Party leader, expressed his grave concern with the changes, stating that Premier Brian Pallister and his government appears to have learned nothing over the course of the pandemic. August 3rd's announcement had no modeling or projections, which are extremely important. How can the PCs be choosing to open up when they have no projections of what might happen? It's reckless and irresponsible, said Lamont. We've seen and heard all of it before, and it appears that Pallister has learned nothing from this own catastrophic failures of the second and third wave. As for NDP leader Wob Canoe, he had not made any type of public statement on the province's guideline decision before the Banner and Press publication deadline. And some news from right here at NACTV. NACTV hires new video journalist. Locals may have noticed a new face at the Neepawa Access Television, or NACTV, station lately, and it's thanks to funding through a federal program. Rain Pryor was officially hired by NACTV on July 5th with the help of a Local Journalism Initiative, or LJI, grant. LJI is a project through the federal government. They have funded the community news sector to employ professional journalists to deliver civic journalism in their communities, explained Pryor. The Local Journalism Initiative isn't a new program. It's actually been on NACTV's radar for a few years now. NACTV applied for this grant for the first time in 2019. So actually, this program has been in effect for 18 months to 2 years now, Pryor said. NACTV was given a grant at the time to hire a journalist in 2019 and could not find someone who wanted to take the position in Neepawa. Pryor explained that the funding they were approved for back then was to be used for 18 months, ending this spring. Fast forward to this year, I think April or May, and they were doing the second intakes, she said. We contacted them again and said, we weren't able to use it last time. COVID has really shaken things up right now, and we think we'll be able to find someone this time. Can we try again? The funding for this round will end in March of next year, after which NACTV will be able to apply for another round. The actual program is 5 years long. We're in year 3 of 5 right now, Pryor noted. To be eligible for the LJI funding, there are certain criteria Pryor's job description has to meet. The main reason for the funding is to help community news sources be able to deliver civic news. Civic journalism is covering the civic institutions in your area. But not just that, it's also covering any issues that are of importance to your immediate community, Pryor explained. Even just to cover the council meetings, that is civic journalism right there. But it's also looking into things that are of concern to citizens. For example, one of the stories Pryor is looking into is Neepawa's cemetery, because that's something area residents have expressed concern about. So the term can be very broadly applied, but you really need to keep the focus on what is important to the community and what the community is talking about and asking questions about. Pryor added that there is more to her job than just reporting. The grant is not just me doing all these news stories. That's not what it's about. It is about the journalist coming in and enabling the community to tell their own stories. So it involves a lot of things like training, interview training, and things like that. some equipment training, and also, not just that, but producing the stories that the volunteers are bringing in, she noted. A big part of the job is really enabling the community to tell their own stories. With the training, Pryor said that NACTV is looking for volunteers who would be interested in learning different aspects of the production process. Not just in filming, but in interviewing and editing and things like that, she stated. So if anyone's interested, please do get in touch with the station. Even if you don't want to do it right away, if down the line you're thinking, this is something I'm interested in learning, please get in touch. While many area residents may recognize Pryor from her 10 years as the programming director for Arts Forward, they may not know that she actually has a background in the news and film sectors. Originally, I studied English and film in school, so I come with that dual background into the TV world. I worked in IT for a while, but then I was actually at the Toronto Star for 7 years. I worked in their online department, she noted. I haven't worked actually as a journalist per se, but certainly have worked in the field and done a lot of this stuff before. Food-filled weekend to be held in Gladstone. The Gladstone Agricultural Society is hoping you'll be hungry this weekend. Society Secretary Tara Fulton told the Neepawa Banner and Press that, similar to last year, the event will provide plenty of food. Poutine night is on August 6th from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. with regular, pulled pork or taco meat poutine available. Pancake breakfasts will be held on August 7th and 8th from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. and the Ag Society Steak Supper on August 7th from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. It's going to be a low-key weekend, said Fulton. We can't have our usual slow-pitch tournament, so it's going to be a small do-what-we-can-do to keep the tradition going. Both the poutine night and steak supper were set for pre-order to give the organizers an idea of how much food would be needed. Though the order dates have passed, Fulton noted that the walk-ups should be able to be accepted. All meals are set for takeout or delivery from Stride Hall. We're going based on what our numbers were last year, so we do have lots of food, I hope, Fulton laughed. In addition to the variety of food opportunities, the fair weekend will also still be host to a few entertainment options on August 7th. That day, the Kids Parade will be at 10:30 a.m., the Fair Parade at 11 a.m., and music performed by Bull Ruckus from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. at the Cook Shack in Williams Park. All attendees are asked to be aware of and abide by the current provincial COVID-19 health and safety regulations. There were no additional regulations in place for the event at the time this paper went to print. And as always, Bigger Bingo is every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. right here on NACTV. And the Bonanza pot is now over $11,000. So you can contact us at our office here at 204-476-2639 or call Val Wilson at 204-841-0448 and we can get you your cards. And I'll come back to the perspectives page in a little while. In Out of Helen's Kitchen, it's another short article just for this summer entitled Cucumbers. Last year and again this summer, my cucumbers have been very prolific. Last year I tried a new recipe for a frozen cucumber salad, It was an awesome addition to my winter menu. Today's recipe will include this recipe as well as a raita. Raita is a traditional Indian side dish often served with spicy dishes to help cool the palate. A blend of plain yogurt, herbs, and vegetables make this raita a nice addition to any meal. Enjoy. And the two recipes this week are for frozen cucumber salad and cucumber tomato raita. Next we have the Spruce Plains RCMP report. During the week of July 26th to August 1st, Spruce Plains RCMP dealt with 46 police activities. On July 26th, RCMP conducted a COVID compliance check in the municipality of Glenella Lansdowne. All persons were found complying with quarantine regulations. Police received a report of a suspicious person exiting a property in Gladstone. The complainant was reporting for informational purposes and requested police to conduct patrols of the area. Police responded to a breach of peace in Rapid City, where one person was taken into custody as a result and later released without charges. July 27th. RCMP responded to a report of an intoxicated person at a business in Minnedosa who was unable to care for themselves. Police and EMS arrived. The person was transported to the hospital and later released to a family member. Police received a request to conduct a well-being check on a person in Neepawa. Police attended and found the person fine with no cause for concern. July 28th. RCMP received a report of threats being uttered against a person in Neepawa. After investigation, it was determined that no real threats were made and the matter was deemed unfounded. Police responded to a complaint of a dangerous driver who was reported to have been speeding and passing when it was unsafe to do so in the RM of Minto Odana. Extensive patrols were made, but the vehicle could not be located. July 29th. RCMP responded to a report of a suspicious person inside a residence in the RM of Oakview. The matter is still under investigation. Police received a report of fraud in Neepawa where there was insufficient evidence to proceed. Police engaged with several motorists, issuing tickets for speeding and parking where prohibited. On July 30th, RCMP were dispatched to an intoxicated person in Neepawa who called theirself in. The person was assessed by EMS and was determined to be okay. The person was released to a sober family member. July 31st. RCMP responded to a commercial alarm in Rapid City. Police attended, checked the property, and found no signs of entry or disturbance. Police conducted highway traffic enforcement and issued several tickets to motorists for speeding. August 1st. RCMP were dispatched to a motor vehicle collision in the RM of North Cypress Langford where a vehicle collided with a deer. The vehicle was totaled, but there were no injuries. Police received a report of a theft in the RM of Rosedale. The investigation is ongoing. Police responded to a commercial alarm in Minnedosa. The building was checked and found secure. The alarm was determined to be false. RCMP conducted 26 traffic enforcement actions during this reporting period. Next is the looking back column. "110 years ago, Friday, August 4th, 1911. Bernie, it is a wonder that people who own cattle cannot put them in a yard that is built for cattle instead of having them running at large, annoying people at night." 100 years ago, Friday, August 5th, 1921. A Carberry man who took a carload of cattle to Winnipeg only got 1.5 cents per pound, and he paid $3.50 for a day's lodging at a second-rate hotel. Rather than lose time from haying operations, a farmer near Rivers pleaded guilty to a breach of the Motor Act by telephone and agreed to pay a fine of $10. 80 years ago, Tuesday, August 5th, 1941. A flood literally crashed down from the skies in huge chunks, rolled in waves over the 25 square miles of Winnipeg Friday. Damage toll mounted steadily Saturday as investigators went ahead with the immense task of checking the havoc wrought by water and a wind that reached a 75-mile velocity. 70 years ago, Thursday, August 9th, 1951. Born to Mr. and Mrs. T.R. Gruitt, nee Peggy Stroman, July 24th in Neepawa General Hospital, a daughter, Joanna Gay. 60 years ago, Friday, August 4th, 1961. The town of Neepawa has been pumping water from Boggy Creek to supply its water system for close to half a century, but apparently never had any proper authority to do so. Town Council received a bit of a jolt Tuesday night when a letter received from the Director of Water Control and Conservation for Manitoba informed it that the only license the town ever received for removal of water was an interim authority granted in 1953 for the removal of 10 acre-feet per year from Park Lake. Council instructed the town secretary to apply for authority to take up to 1 million gallons per day, the capacity of the proposed new water treatment plant, from Boggy Creek. The annual reunion of the Dieppe raid in 1942 will be held in Minto Armories, Winnipeg, during the evening of Friday, August 18th. Comrades from all parts of Manitoba and from outside the province are planning to attend, and this is expected to be the biggest reunion in many years. 50 years ago, Thursday, August 5th, 1971. Sergeant Todd Simon of No. 9 Neepawa Royal Canadian Air Cadet Squadron completed his flying scholarship training this month at the Brandon Flying Club and will receive his Air Cadet wings and private pilot's license. He is the son of Mr. and Mrs. E.P. Simon of Neepawa. And also related is the picture on this page. It says, pictured is Sergeant Todd Simon of the No. 9 Neepawa Royal Canadian Cadet Squadron. And this gives the date as 2001. So one of these is in error. 40 years ago, Thursday, August 6, 1981. A house and chisel plow had a minor collision last week on Highway 16 while both were in transport east of Neepawa, according to RCMP. The two drivers, one moving a bungalow west on the Yellowhead and the other pulling a 35-foot chisel plow with the wings up, met near the Arden Ridge in mid-afternoon on Wednesday, July 29th. Police said some teeth on one wing bit into the eave of the house, tearing 2 rows of shingles. The plow was not damaged. The two were able to continue en route, preventing any blockage of traffic, police said. Workers began pouring cement around the base of Neepawa's water tower to form a base on which the water tank will be assembled. 62 members of the Surratt and James families gathered August 1st and 2nd for a celebration to commemorate the centennial of Maple Grove Farm, Section 51416 in the Langford municipality. 5 successive generations have lived on the farm since the arrival of William and Margaret Surratt in 1881. They were succeeded on the farm by Fred and Mabel Surratt in 1907. When Fred died suddenly in 1940, his son Lloyd took over the operation of the farm. In 1945, he married Irma Hearn of Kelwood, and they farmed until 1974, when they left to serve with CUSO in Africa. At this time, son-in-law and daughter, Edward and Joan James, came to operate the farm. Their children, Scott and Kathy James, are the 5th generation on Maple Grove Farm. 30 years ago, Monday, August 5th, 1991. Last week, Prairie Auction and Maynard's auctioned off some of the co-op assets. Neepawa Ford will be opening in the former Co-op Implements building in September. Pictures of former mayors have been put up in the county court building. A thank you note will be sent to Cecil Pittman for his volunteered efforts on this project. 20 years ago, Monday, August 6, 2001. A proposed merger between Agricor and United Grain Growers would create the country's largest grain handling and farm supply company. But the $450 million deal may also spell the end of a number of country elevator terminals, including Neepawa's. Following the closure of Arden School, bus routes northeast of Neepawa have been reorganized to accommodate students who will travel to Neepawa on a daily basis, beginning this fall. Why was I terminated? Long-term employee plans to fight decision. The headline sums up the whole story. Richie Harding invested over 17 years of his working life into the healthcare system, serving mainly with Brandon Regional Health, then Prairie Mountain Regional Health, and lately with Manitoba Shared Health. He was expecting to retire in a few years. He was not expecting to be terminated. In fact, he had not had any items of correction on his file. He said, "I didn't even have a performance review in about 10 years." Harding explains that, "On the 15th of April, I was to enter into a meeting with past director Trevor Bartlett, who is a manager for Digital Health, Shared Health Manitoba, which is the arm of provincial healthcare responsible for all the information and communication systems of most of the healthcare sectors in the province. This meeting, I was told by my immediate manager, was to address concerns about a particular job that I had done with which they had concerns. I assumed that this would be under the framework of the Shared Health Policy 320-100-135 called Discipline and Discharge, and that there would be the expected process of consultation in fairness. The meeting was to address one particular concern on the job. I was ushered in and the teleconference system immediately lit up and a woman, Barbara Wesselak, appeared on the screen. She greeted us cordially. Very shortly afterwards, the screen changed and an older man, Ron Kloek, joined via teleconference and greeted us more stoically. He immediately proceeded to sever my employment contract and to describe the terms of the severance. Upon closing his reading of his prepared statement, for which I was simultaneously given a written copy, he left the meeting, and I was now speaking with Miss Wesselak, who, smiling constantly, asked me if I had any questions. I asked her if there was a reason why they were firing me. I told her that I was expecting to talk about my work and that this was what I understand the meeting to have been about. She refused to answer my only question on the grounds that I was already too stressed, and instead promised to have a conversation about it with me later on, after the severance business was done with. Harding says the termination has been devastating. He's lost his livelihood, his pension has been crushed, and he feels that many co-workers have been treated badly or will be in the near future. Harding says that the IT group is overloaded with work assignment. He feels that mismanagement and malevolence have been the main reason for the frustrated resignations of several colleagues, and that his efforts and sacrifices to make a success out of the work have been made in vain. He feels he was always on the short list of people who are to be removed. The work history with Trevor Bartlett goes back a number of years. Bartlett and Harding both applied a number of years ago for an entry-level tech job. In fact, the original job interview was conducted by Trevor Bartlett's father, Ted, so that has always created a bit of a concern in Harding's mind. Harding said that Trevor Bartlett, in his later managerial role, started by overworking his staff until some of us quit to pursue more equitable work. Now he is managing to successfully convince the executives that my character is so odious that I should be dismissed with a meager pension and severance package. I will not ignore Trevor Bartlett's actions or stand by idly while his attention turns toward my colleagues. And this is continued on page 14. I have invested heavily in my career of 17 plus years. I have worked countless hours of overtime by arriving early, regularly at 6 a.m., and working late, often leaving at 9 p.m., something that was unnecessary before the creation of Prairie Mountain Health and reductions in resources became an issue. I have stepped up rather than out. Many of my colleagues have had to do the same. When disasters strike, I have always been one of the willing to step up and lend my time and skills to the recovery. I have earned the respect of my colleagues, and I have worked tirelessly to maintain and build on that foundation. A human manager, rightly oriented, would have been inclined to defend me and any other person being considered for dismissal. A human manager would be forthright and honest with staff when setting up a meeting. Instead, I was blindsided, having prepared for a meeting on the false and misleading information of the very person that I should have been able to count on in the hierarchy. I have been sold down the river without a say in the transaction. My family suffers to this day. My wife goes to work on the very same campus as I once did. She feels every bit of the uncertainty of the situation from staffers who have no idea why I am no longer working. The pressure on her and the effect on her mental health has been profound. I have been a well-known and reliable source of IT support throughout Prairie Mountain Health and particularly on campus. My sudden absence has generated personal calls to me that often start with, "I wonder if you can help me with," and end with their shock when I explain that I am not employed in healthcare any longer. Harding said that he has not been offered anywhere near the normal severance package accorded to long-term employees. He plans to fight Manitoba Shared Health, not just for himself, but for others in his now former workplace. And back on page 9, we have a picture. Harvest Sun brings the music to Neepawa. Amber Epp left, and Rodrigo Munoz performed at a pop-up concert on the lawn at Elks Manor on July 31st. This is one of 2 concerts that the Harvest Sun Music Festival is bringing to Neepawa this summer. This is the 2nd year in a row the festival has been cancelled due to the pandemic, so the Harvest Sun Festival is being scattered around Westman in the form of free pop-up concerts. The next concert will be at Arts Forward on Saturday, August 7th at 5:30 p.m. with Mitchell Maudslin performing blues and roots music. Erickson Store reports a great first year. It's been just over a year since the Score store opened in Erickson. Since it opened its doors in June 2020, store founder Steve Langston reported to the Banner and Press that it has been met with great support. The response has been really good. We're really happy with the support from both the donation and the shopping perspective, said Langston. Every time we're open, it's busy. Langston added, there's been a lot of streamlining that had to happen. We had to purchase a couple trailers and outfit the store to handle the volume. All the admin things you could think of when it comes to starting a business, from getting our payroll sorted out to having our staff trained. So there's been a lot of growth internally, just helping the business be more freestanding and sustainable. Overall, the store's outcome is at the top end of what SCORE's expectations were. That is, the SCORE store is profitable and able to make donations back to the community, though it hasn't been without its challenges. Operating during a pandemic has been challenging. We have a lot of volunteers who are older, who are hesitant, understandably, to come in, Langston explained. So we've had to hire more younger staff and, dealing with the door, and we shut down before the province told us to. It definitely has been challenging, but we've got a great staff and group of volunteers that have been a big help. Langston told the Banner and Press that the store has also brought change to downtown Erickson. As a community-minded initiative, the SCORE store has a couple of mandates, but the major one is to improve the quality of life of everyone in the region. As part of that mandate, one thing those at the store identified strongly with was the need for more small businesses in the community. We want to make sure that Main Street Erickson is fully occupied. We had some empty buildings when we started out, said Langston. So a few of us, including the municipality, SCORE store, Sunrise Credit Union, North Star Insurance, and Community Futures all pulled funds together to the tune of about $16,000. And we offered small businesses 50% off of their lease if they were going to occupy an empty or underutilized building. That particular initiative, a business incubator, started up in November 2020. Right at the get-go, there was a great uptake. We had about 5 new businesses start in downtown Erickson, and it's made a huge difference. We're now at full occupancy in all our commercial space in the town, Langston explained. It started a lot of jobs, and it's driving tourism visits to the area. A few of these include the bakery known as Erickson Avesta Broadbutic, Ground to Gut Gardens, and the Irish Cafe. Extending his gratitude on behalf of the SCORE store, Langston stated, "Thank you to our volunteers and supporters in the community for helping us have a great first year." And a couple of photos accompany the article. The SCORE store has now been open for just over a year. Though renovating the space and then operating during COVID-19 provided a challenge, the response has still been strong. On the top left, the SCORE store as it appeared on June 12th. The side of the ramp is now painted with a vibrant mural. And above, just one of the many items that were previously donated to the store since its opening. The store carries a wide selection of gently used goods. And now we're on the Carberry North Cypress Langford page. And first we have Here and There by Gladwin Scott. Carberry and Glenborough Golf Clubs hosted a very successful Glenberry tournament with 168 golfers July 24th and 25th. 18 holes were played on each course, which were both in great shape. The results were, in the men's championship flight, first Shane McCulloch and Sean Rickman, 130. Second, Joel Barron and Tyson Cluett, 134. Third, Mark Bryant and Scott Graham with 139. In men's first flight, first place, Scott Witherspoon and Nolan Mitchell with 150. Second place, Brent McMillan and Brian Salt, also with 150. And third place, Tyler Unger and Ryan White, again with 150. In men's second flight, first place, Scott Murray and Eric Truscott, 155. Second place, Earl Barron and Bob Dennis, 156. Third place, David Manns and Trevor Kaler, 157. In the men's third flight, first place, Albert Naismith and Leonard Birch, 166. Second place, Devin Epp and Devin Speece, 167. Third place, Austin Mustard and Carmen Mustard, 167. In the ladies' championship flight, first place, Nettie LePage and Chris Coulter, 159. Second place, Becky Birch and Susie Scott, 167. Third place, Aaron Gessner and Joanne Mitchell, 167. Ladies' first flight, first place, Farron Rickman and Jen Jackson, 180. Second, Deanna Dixon and Linda Birch, 181. Third, Colleen Turner and Kim Miller, 183. In the mixed flight, first, Craig Richardson and Carla Richardson, 138. Second place, Kelly Murray and Tammy Murray, 154. In third place, Mark Hood and Terry Wright, 161. In the horse race on Saturday night, 10 twosomes, each with at least one Carberry member, were auctioned off. 8 men's, 1 women's, and 1 mixed team. The winners were, first, Joel Barron and Tyson Cluett. Second, Braden Calvert and Ian McMillan. Third, Josh McMillan and Miles Lawrence. Carberry golfers who had good rounds at the recent Minnedosa Golf and Country Club Masters Tournament were Joel Barron, Becky, and Warren Birch. Barron carded a 71 to finish runner-up to champion Derek Cameron with 70. Becky Birch topped the ladies' flight with a 91, and Warren shot an 80 to win the men's first flight. The Pembina Hills 13U baseball team dropped doubleheader 10-6 and 9-5 against the Carillon Sultans at Blumenort July 25th. Caden Bean pitched 2 innings in relief for Chris Unrau's squad. Westman Magic under-19 women's team, which includes a few local players, won a doubleheader over Interlake Phillies 13-11 and 14-3 in Brandon on July 25th. Cassie Crerar was the winning pitcher in the Mercy shortened second game. After a couple more double headers, Cassie will leave August 12th for college near Buffalo, New York. And Gladwin writes, media coverage of life in Indian residential schools has been very negative lately. We had a different experience when I was the Interlake School Division superintendent during the 1980s. The United Church had a dormitory in Toulon, and parents from the fly-in northern communities of Garden Hill, Wasagamak, Island Lake, and St. Teresa Point sent their high school students to stay in the residence and attend classes at Toulon Collegiate. We had strong art and physical education programs which many of the native students enjoyed. However, it was a challenge for some students to adjust from life in the north to a small rural community 1 hour north of Winnipeg. During the 1990s, the Reserve decided that they wanted to educate their high school students at home. More recently, the Dog Creek Reserve, who had their high school students attending classes in Lundar, decided to withdraw them in mid-August several years ago. The students were reluctant to stay home as they were happy in Lundar, and unfortunately, the Lakeshore School Division was forced to lay off several teachers and educational aids. And in the accompanying photo, the Neepawa Banner and Press extends its heartfelt congratulations to Gladwin and Marguerite Scott, who recently celebrated their 60th anniversary. Here's to many more. Unruh joins Basketball Academy. Carson Unruh pictured in this photo. Carson Unruh, age 16, who just returned from a 2-week basketball tournament in Las Vegas, has been accepted to North Star Preparatory Institute in Winnipeg. He is a 6' 3" tall shooting guard and played club ball at BU before COVID-19 shut them down. Unruh is a good academic student and has enrolled for grade 12 at Churchill High School. We won the Las Vegas tournament, which was a great experience against super competition, stated Carson. It was very warm, 45 degrees, but the gyms were exceptional and cool. The team members are from all over Canada, and future games are all over the USA and Canada. The main purpose is to land a university scholarship. Best wishes to Carson in this new venture. And we have several obituaries this week. The first is for Win Butcher Robinson, January 3rd, 1921 to June 19th, 2021. Youngest daughter, predeceased by Mr. William Joseph and Wilhelmina McIntosh Butcher. Pioneer family of the Wattsview District, Birtle, Manitoba. Wynne was predeceased by brothers Joe, George, Fred, and sister Nell. Wynne was raised on the Century Farm neighboring her Oxford Rural, one-room school, and Birtle High School. Stories of Mina's nurse Doe bringing her new fawns each spring. Chose a career in nursing. 1943 grad, entered public health, and branched into outpost nursing in St. Pierre, Manitoba. Wynne married Walter Hollenby Robinson of Kamloops in 1947, who passed away in 1993. And she continued her family, gardening, singing, crafting goals fulfillingly until her death. She is survived by son Wayne, Leslie Davidson of Parksville, and grandchildren Kendra of Vancouver and Curtis of Kamloops. Also daughter Tenise Billis, son-in-law Robert Starkovich, and grandchildren Lauren and Robert Jr. Starkovich of BC. We hope to share some stories and an 1890 treasure, 3:30 p.m. Thursday, September 9th, 2021 at Birtle Park. William Lemke, May 19th, 1944 to August 1st, 2021. It is with great love and sadness that we share the passing of William Lemke, also known to family and friends as Bill, on August 1st, 2021, at the age of 76. Bill leaves to mourn his loving wife Sharon, children Terry, Darren, wife Shelley, Wanda, sisters Elma, Betty, Helen, grandchildren Tyler, wife Christina, Travis, Che, Kyle, Ashley, sister-in-law Marion, mother-in-law Rose, and many nieces and nephews. Bill was a very family-focused man, and his number one priority was to make sure family and friends were always happy. From fixing cars for family to providing his customers the best service, Bill will always be remembered for his heart of gold. Pending graveside prayers will be held with family at Arden Cemetery, and a celebration of life will follow shortly after at Arden Park. Jesse Zachariah Spurl. Jesse Zachariah Spurl was born on December 20th, 2001 at Neepawa Hospital. He was a beautiful Christmas baby under Grandma and Grandpa's Christmas tree. Jesse was always special, hyper, and full of life. Being diagnosed with autism at 3 3/4 years helped explain some of Jesse's hyperactive energy. Jesse went to school at Gladstone Elementary and continued to William Morton Collegiate. He had many teachers and EAs who loved working with him. He touched their lives as much as they helped him. After grad, Jesse returned to school for one more year, learning more life skills. He started going to Sprucedale Industries one day a week. He loved it. He couldn't wait until fall and start going every day. That was never meant to be. Jesse was diagnosed just before Easter 2020 with EHE, epithelioid hemangioendothelioma, a rare cancer which begins in the inner lining of the blood vessels and spreads to soft tissues. Jesse had many tumors on his liver and both lungs. Jesse stayed at home for the last year while remaining stable. Middle of May this year, Jesse's liver tumors grew and his health rapidly deteriorated, faster than anyone expected. Our precious boy passed away at 11:24 a.m. on July 21st. Even though this cancer can be painful, Jesse passed away with no pain, with his dad, mom, and brother Ethan at his side. Jesse's last words were, "God is good." Jesse is predeceased by his grandpa Alan Fair and great-grandparents on both sides. He is survived by his dad and mom, Jason and Sherry, brothers Justin and Ethan, sister Abby, grandmother Margaret Fair, Nan Sharon Spurl, many aunts, uncles, and cousins. Funeral service was held Tuesday, August 3rd, 2021 at 2 o'clock at Christian Fellowship Churchyard in Gladstone, with Pastor Randy Fair officiating. Interment took place prior to service at the Gladstone Cemetery. If friends so desire, memorial donations may be made to Central Plains Cancer Care, Portage La Prairie, Manitoba. Michael John William Ham. Michael John William Ham passed away on Saturday, July 24th, 2021, at his residence in Gladstone, Manitoba, at the age of 43 years old. Michael was born to John and Isabel Ham on June 16, 1978, in Gladstone, Manitoba. Michael and his family lived north of Plumas until he reached the age of 10, when they moved to North Vancouver, but he was back and forth to Manitoba for several years. At the age of 26, he met Leah and made Manitoba his home, and in 2005 they were married. Mike's greatest love, other than farming and his chickens, was his wife and raising his kids Casey, Everett, and Gemma on his own farm in Gladstone. He loved all his family, especially his nieces and nephews, always making sure they felt loved. You could never walk past Mike without getting a hug, even though he struggled health-wise. Mike loved big, and he will be very missed. He is predeceased by his father, John Ham. He is survived by his wife Leah, sons Casey and Everett, daughter Gemma, his mother Isabel, sisters Mona, husband John, and Sherry, husband Sean. In-laws Harold and Rebecca Friesen, Stephanie Cole, husband Brad, Ed, wife Lauren, and Christine Friesen, as well as many nieces and nephews, Reese, Sterling, Justin, Sienna, Lauren, Wilder, Madden, Anna, Charlotte, and Jack. If friends so desire, memorial donations may be made towards an education fund for Michael's children at any Stride Credit Union. A celebration of life will take place on Saturday, August 7th, 2021, at 2 p.m. and will be held at the Ham residence west of Gladstone, Manitoba. And finally, Christine Joyce Mitchler. On July 24th, 2021, suddenly at her home, a beautiful young woman, Christine Mitchler, passed away, who fought every day most of her life to live a normal life. She was the most kind-hearted person and would help do anything for anybody. Even as a child growing up, she was always so kind, and she loved the farm life, and family was her everything, as it was to this day. She fought a long and hard life. In 1997, she was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, and at the same time found out she was pregnant with her only son. After the baby was born, she spent many a time in and out of the hospital over the next 23 years and had numerous amount of surgeries, some of which the family wasn't sure whether she would pull through. In 2019, she had to be put on tube feeding because she could no longer tolerate food. In March 2020, she lost her dad, whom she loved dearly, and seemed to lose her will to keep going, but she carried on the best she could. She was able to work over the years here and there, and she loved working and interacting with other people, but her health did not allow her to keep it up, so she struggled very hard financially. She loved living in her apartment in Neepawa. That was home to her. She leaves to mourn her son, whom she adored, Jesse Rayston Mitchler, her mother, Isabel Richardson, and 4 siblings, Cindy, Min, Shelley, Lisa, Greg, Doug, Kim, and her ex-husband and good friend John Mitchler, numerous nieces and nephews, great-nieces and nephews, and numerous friends. Predeceased before her was her dad, Bob Richardson, in 2020, grandparents and uncles. Rest in peace, Christine. You are one of a kind. There will be a private graveside service with family and friends at Gladstone Cemetery with Rita Friesen officiating. If one so desires, a donation can be made to the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation in Christine's memory. And now on page 15, we have a photo. Barrel racing returns to Minnedosa. Ali Jakubowski on her horse Cisco do a run during the recent barrel racing competition in Minnedosa. Minnedosa was recently home to a barrel racing competition. The AM Leather Co. 2021 Barrel Series took place on Saturday, July 24th. The results from the event were as follows. First place, Ali Jakubowski and Cisco, 19.125 seconds. Second, Gracie Fawns and Boom, 19.398. Third, Renee Bowden with Sonic, 19.522. Fourth, Gracie Fawns and Taffy, 19.637. Fifth, Ali Jakubowski and Gunner, 19.899. Sixth, Jennifer Smart and Honey, 20.008. Seventh, Tori Ann Colosimo and Daisy, 20.161. Eighth, Jenna Walker and Reese, 20.241. And ninth, Callie Bowden and MJ, run time 20.264. And we have a submitted opinion piece from John Feldstead. Pandemic response killed what makes us human. The lockdowns used as a response to the coronavirus epidemic show little sign of letting up. 2 weeks to slow the spread and 15 days to flatten the curve were lies when they were spoken. They quickly morphed into months, then into years. A dishonest media, which functions as the propaganda wing of the governing liberals, bears the brunt of the blame for the devastation caused by a destructive overreaction to COVID. Through its fear-mongering, the media has transformed a relatively normal influenza epidemic into an all-purpose boogeyman to instill terror into those willing to trade everything that makes us joyfully human for the imaginary security of a slave's chains. The current virus death count, generously defined as the death of anyone who dies having tested positive before death, stands at roughly 26,550, or 0.07% of our population. Using cases, the new benchmark, there have been 1,430,300 cases in Canada, or 3.7% of our population. Of that number, 1.8% died. The media ignores the 1,397,400 people who have recovered. Music, art, dance, theater, and motion pictures are closer to death than the elderly, with comorbidities who make up a significant share of deaths attributed to COVID. Public gatherings are forbidden except for minority group protests. Other victims are the hospitality sector, hotels, restaurants, and bars, which have long been the targets of climate change lunatics. Our churches and synagogues, which militant atheists have long wished to shutter, are closed. Our entire public life, the things that make life worth living, has been shut down, ruined, or put out of business. If everything reopens, it will be under the conditions of the new normal, which means that governments will never allow us to regain full freedoms and rights again unless we demand our freedoms. The notion of social distancing, which has cruelly separated individuals and generations, affects our humanity's essence. For centuries we have regarded the forced separation of families with horror. Instructing people to consider their fellow human beings as virus-infected nightmares who can kill them is reprehensible. Hollywood could not script a better horror movie. Children have learned the most helpful lesson the ruling class behind these monstrous policies could hope for: fear, obedience, and submission. Has it been worth it? By any unemotional and rational consideration, the answer is no. This seems a cruel question to which a cruel trade-off must be the answer. Societies have been making that choice since the beginning of history. After a year and a half of COVID, during which we have surrendered our freedoms, rights, and way of life to a handful of intellectually mediocre and morally bereft bureaucrats, primarily unelected, what have we got to show for it? We lived under house arrest while COVID case counts continued to rise without pause. Governments are making it up as they go. When governments seek refuge through the arrival of COVID vaccines to save their political careers, we know their virus containment efforts failed. Governments must demonstrate why they must continue suppressing our constitutional freedoms and rights. They have not contained COVID. Their warnings that lifting restrictions will result in massive increases in infections are not credible. Government spent a year and a half lying to us, suppressing information and fear-mongering. They have lost our trust. We need to find out what happened to this. John Feldstedt is a political commentator, consultant, and strategist based out of Winnipeg. And as quickly as we can, I'll try to get in one more thing. On the Perspectives page, Homebodies by Rita Friesen. Really? At your age? I have done a great deal of thinking, contemplating, and reflecting on this aging thing. Some of it has produced positive emotions, and some of it has produced frustration, and some has plainly produced negative emotions. About par for the course charted for my journey. And sometimes laughter is still the best medicine. For the first time in my life, I have suffered dramatic reactions to wasp stings. Never have been fond of the potent poison they can inject. I'm not a proficient thrower of balls, not got a pitcher's arm. One fall day, years ago, I picked an apple from the tree, not knowing it harbored a wasp. With the piercing of the stinger's penetration into the palm of my hand, I flung the apple a record-setting toss, if there be such a competition. I have not been subjected to many stings in my life, and it is as if the ticking of my aging clock is calling for new adventures. I have been stung twice in the last month. The first was just above my elbow on my left arm. Within a day, that portion of my anatomy was a hard, red, hot, painful sight. It took days for the swelling to dissipate, and the area appeared as a nasty bruise when the tale was told. That sight was nicely healed when a yellow jacket took a bite. On the left arm, on the wrist, hot, hot, hot. Within minutes, the old site was bubbling. Hives appeared on various areas of my pain body, and the inside of my ears and the palms of my hands itched to distraction. I took an antihistamine and watched my arm swell, and I felt the throb. This time, the swelling extends from my knuckles to just a tad past the elbow, the site of bite 1. This time I went to the walk-in at the hospital. A steroid tablet, endless ice packs, and a sling to prevent me from ever dropping the arm below waist level, and I am surviving. The left hand looks like a movie prop for a nasty movie. Did not need this experience to round out my resume. Seriously though, this aging takes unexpected twists and turns, some predictable and others appear random. There was a time when 5-gallon pails of water or a chop wearing carried with ease from respectable distancing. Bales were tossed, not dragged or rolled. Paving tiles and cement blocks were no threat to my abilities. Now I prefer a garden hose for watering rather than carrying any water anywhere. My walking has slowed, but it's not bad for a woman my age. Takes markedly longer to perform many a task. The upside of aging? We live in a great area, and many of the youth in our community are active in their grandparents' lives and know there is a real person inside an aged body. With this knowledge comes respect for the elderly. I appreciate the respect and considerate the young staff members at our local businesses grant me with every interaction. Love it when they are comfortable using my given name when serving me. Not all discomfort with getting older. And quickly, we have 3 thumbs up. Thumbs up to all the hardworking people who water and maintain the planters and hanging baskets. The flowers are so pretty and add a splash of color to our town. From Sherry James in Neepawa. We would like to send a thumbs up to the organizers of the Makers Market for a well-organized and well-run market. A good variety of Manitoba presenters. From Colin and Debbie McNerney of Neepawa. A huge bouquet to the hard-working gardeners at the thrift store. So good to share. Thank you. From Lillian Barcelou of Neepawa. And if you get the paper, you can also check out this photo of making soap. But that's all I have time for this week, so we'll see you next week.